Good morning and welcome to Waking Wellness. This is an impromptu episode. I've been wanting to make one for quite some time now, but have been busy working with the AI and building out some stuff for you guys, which is going to be awesome to release very, very soon. But I've been almost like a hurting inside just to make some content and share with you guys and get back and really have this interaction again. So this is what that is. I didn't have too much of a topic when I first wanted to make the video. I had a few different things that were sort of loosely associated, but they've been popping up over and over and over and over again within my reality. So that's obviously meaning that it's sitting on my consciousness, or my consciousness is, yeah, that may be a good way to say it. So I just wanted to go and connect a few of these things and really open up the conversation and discussion for it. But two of the themes that I am going to discuss are at the heart of it. And so one of them, which took me a little bit of time to unearth and I got right before making the video, is rigidity. Is that very intensified discipline where you're just like, nah, not gonna deviate off, not gonna, I only drink water and orange juice and apple juice. No, I'm not doing pop, I'm not doing da 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 da. Like it can be a spiritual rigidity, and that's what we're really gonna end up going into. And really a person, I wanna say personal, I guess how rigidity pops up within your life and within relationships, whether that's your relationship to food, whether that's your relationship to people, but no matter what, that rigidity is going to, what would be a good way of saying it? That rigidity is going to show how your ability to be open to some degree. This is what we're talking about. And as opposed to being so rigid and so to it that you're not able to open up and let new things develop. And in tandem with that, we're going to also be talking about one of my favorite topics, the heart chakra and the heart. They're very dear to me. It's been popping up over and over and over in my mind. And I'll give you a few reasons why. One of the reasons why it popped into my head as a question, someone asking like, "Oh, what's your favorite color?" And it's funny because I think about this sort of a lot. Blue has always been my favorite color, and when I really learned out about the chakras and what they mean, and blue being expression and creativity and communication, like that's a Gemini 1,000%. We really do identify self through our relationships, and so blue has always been it for me. But when I got this thought a couple of days ago, I thought, well, it's been green for quite some time. Like I love blue just as much, but green has been now maybe for about 6 to 7 years. Someone actually brought it up to me, and that's what made me think about it. And so it's been green because I activated and I got so intimate with my heart chakra. When I start opening it and I started releasing things that I had allowed to stay within me for so long. And that's actually the key point of this topic, that most of us are so rigid within ourself, which in turn is our discipline and then our mindset and then our way of movement and becoming and thinking and manifesting, that we end up holding on so much. And that's actually exactly what I want to hit on today, because even with this expression right here is what I've been feeling, and that's why I needed to make this video so I could share with you guys my purpose, what is to me, what I see as like, oh, what's the most important thing now to talk about? It is life, and it is to share that life with. And so I've just been feeling like, okay, we've been building and creating this thing, this course, and da 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 da, and I've not been able to share, regardless if it's been with quote unquote one person or with however many followers, watchers, viewers, with whoever, but really it's with those I am able to connect with and that this is meant for. I've really been having that like a calling, that yearning has been yanking me from the other side of the ether. So I've been like, you know what, I need to drop it. And it's funny because at first I thought that this video, I was going to name it, What Are You Doing It For? Because that intention really does um, sets the precedent. I always think about Oprah and that she helped shift my mind. Whenever it comes to intention, I think about that. I was watching Evan Carmichael. He was given the best of Oprah's compilations. And as I also need to put him on the new podcast that I'm manifesting and bringing into cohesion called Stepping In. Um, he brought up some of Oprah's best motivational speeches, and it hit me and it changed my life when I heard intention, and she spoke upon intention, and she stated that the quality of what you create will always be the result of the intention. So and that seems like obviously, like all these things obviously seem like that after in hindsight, but it's resonating with me right now because you sit here and you go, so I could say, or as I was relating it to you guys, I'm thinking like, okay, oh, I'm gonna drop this and it's gonna go viral. I was watching this movie yesterday and she goes, if this doesn't make the channel go viral, then I don't know what is. And we all have that kind of thought process. But it's funny because when you really get down to it, like, and that's what I had to keep asking myself and really sort of I had to have this disintegration of the ego again and keep pulling away at the layers because I'm like, man, it's so many times where you can easily realize like, oh, I am actually feeding someone else's dream. And I'm not even talking about oh, working 9 to 5 or something. I'm talking about like literally you realize you are caught in loops and matrices of others' creations of like, oh, I want you to be doing this, or oh, that's not a real, like, it's so many different things and places and modes of being that people desire us to be that. When you really look at it, you go, oh my goodness, okay, I may have been hitting these qualifications as a good or satisfying, supposed to be fulfilled life. And then you realize, like, why do I not feel like that? Because these are designs created by others. You're like, okay, I'm living in a house or I'm living in a world of a design by 1,000 other people because I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be taking in these considerations when at the heart of it, you are really supposed to be figuring out what is within there. And so after doing a lot of the stripping down of the ego, I really started to have some things to reflect upon how I'm projecting out and creating what I want less than what I want. Shouldn't say that, but creating the world in a way that you understand that your consciousness, these things are a byproduct of where we are raising our consciousness to and the level of awareness within our consciousness. So, bring all of this, I guess, a little bit back, still interweaving. um, that's what brought me to the rigidity and the hard space because I feel like and I believe that for quite some time now, I said maybe 7 years. So it's really me excavating. And I say I was very, 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 very depressed as a sophomore. I think I talk about this a little bit in Intelligent Intimacy. And I was like depressed. A lot of my friends left. I just felt like really empty. Couldn't go to class. Just like laying in bed and had the will to do nothing and really feeling like you know? And one day I was like, okay, this has to change. But when you don't have that energy, you don't have that energy. And I don't want to go through the whole thing, but it's funny when you come out on the other side of what you have to go through in order to come out on the other side. And the beginning of that, I didn't realize at the beginning of that, like my heart was black. For real. Always sending the black heart emoji. But and not just because being like actually like emo at the heart of it, but like I didn't realize for real, that my heart was holding. Like to have a heavy heart is a real thing. Like people think, oh, we just hold this weight in our mind, or we hold like, these living organs take that energy and resonate at that frequency, and it's either telling it to be more vibrant and live more, grow, or it's giving it, the order for cell death. And so that is what was happening, and I was embracing that and not realizing. And so at the beginning of the journey, it really did start here. And one of the best interactions, actually, I'm gonna say, that I had in Hawaii is when I was driving and I picked up a couple to take them to the airport, and I believe they were maybe from like Bolivia or somewhere like that. Or Argentina or somewhere like that. They were really traveled and they were living for sure. And he said, when I talked to somebody that came to their purpose and their stuff, he said, he told me, and he could see it within me, and I was sort of lost and sort of looking for it. He said, the real journey that you'll take, or maybe I think it was like the longest journey, most difficult that you're ever gonna make, is from your mind to your heart. And as soon as he said it, I could really feel it. I knew what he meant. I've experienced it. I done been there, back, and trying to make it back 1,000 times. And so it was funny because that's exactly what I'm expressing right now. I thought at that time that the journey was here, because like that's what sort of got me out of it. Like I could see here, and then I started getting into spirituality. Like, oh my God, okay, the third eye is real and stuff. But that was the mental portion, and the real portion is here, because home is where the heart is, and that is the real the source does lie within here, within the sacred space, and there are places within here that this is where all exists. So to learn that, to hear it as a quote is one thing, and then to, let's say, maybe like raise your consciousness a little, and then like feel like, oh, it's more than a cliche, but then to actually experience, like live within that, is a whole different frequency and existence in itself. And so that's what's really shifted me to even throwing this impromptu. I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and try to make it 15, something like that. But now I feel like it could be an hour, 2 hour conversation, however long my phone's gonna allow. But we're gonna keep diving back into it. And the reason why I had to make it is because all these things, like I said, in my reality are calling out to me about it. I've been watching a lot of different things trying to compile. I've been in a compile mode, and let me acquire info, and then take some time, and I'm gonna go and filter it through. But all of it's been coming into me, and a lot has been about consciousness. I've been getting a lot about eyes. The last movie I watched was a sci-fi, but it was about a monster with all these eyes. But then prior to that, I watched a healing documentary, Superhuman, on Tubi. It's a free app. Please go and watch it. I'm gonna give a breakdown on that as well on Tubi, about how we're superhuman, how we have these abilities that long ago, or even let's say when I first started talking about this, and had people, some of my friends, like, oh, he's crazy, you need to check on him about this, da 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 da. I'm not gonna deny some of those claims, because I know who I am, but not crazy for the reason of what people were sitting here saying and talking about, being in tune with, like, oh my God, he's worshiping the sun and the stars and the moon. It's like, no, it's realizing and honoring, self and life, but whole different thing. And that's what I'm saying. It's different to experience. Sometimes we may have a mystical moment or a transcendental moment and go, oh my God, and like you may go, wow, it's really beautiful, and that may hit you. To live in that and really go, I'm going to make this my lifestyle, my way of life, is completely different. And to integrate that into your consciousness and actually see through that lens is completely different. And so that's really what I wanted to bring and share with you guys today. As I mentioned, I've been having overwhelming moments of not just of clarity, just desire to share, of inspiration. That's what it is. And when you're really inspired and your cup is overflowing, there's nothing to do but share, and that's all you want to do is go and share it. And so having all these things come in, like I'm like, oh my God, that's why it's coming in, because pretty much the universe is like, okay, we copied your algorithm. We're giving you the things that you have been asking for. And to connect what I mentioned before about all of the eyes, I have been having, like I said, overwhelming reflection and clarity and internal understanding and insight. And so to bring or to go back to when I was in school and I had all this darkness inside, it's funny because it's so difficult to see how we're running from ourselves when it could be so simple to actually witness. But yet we have um very, how can I say it, very finite, very limited concepts and constructs of how mind works, how we work, how we are who we are. Um, we think that we're these small little components that make up something when we're actually much bigger, much more dynamic, and it's outside of the words that we really give. We try to give description to. So I bring up all that internal clarity and all the insight, because it's difficult to talk about, but it's actually a real thing. And so in the Superhuman documentary, there's a new, I don't know if I want to, like, tool that has been used, and it's like a blindfold, and the company or companies that develop it have given them to like children and people of all ages, and kids have been able to do things like that. People such as clairvoyants or those with any type of extrasensory abilities at a very heightened um, skill level, have claimed to already have, that they're able to read these books with these blindfolds on, go through it clearly. There's other demonstrations of like a teacher dropping like bean bags into the kids' hands, and he's like red, blue, pink, orange, and able to see these things fully. And it's funny because it's very easy, of course, probably as I was saying it, your mind instantly goes, no, that's not possible, because we think the eyes are what helps us see, because that's what we have been taught. That's how the brain now sort of thinks and sort of molds its construct to, versus where what the teacher, she said, is no, we actually see with our whole body. These kids are able to activate, or they see with all their cells. And it's funny because to say that and to understand that, you have to actually feel and be that, or have had experience with that, to really think to really think that you can see with all your cells. You have had to experience that phenomena. And so that really hit me when she said that, because obviously I've had the experience. And more importantly, I hadn't heard someone just so blatantly put it like that, and it wasn't in some kind of like esoteric type of like thrown on with all this esoteric jargon, or even really put in like a ultra scientifically refined lens. It was in a very, what I believe spirituality is, it was a very of lifetime way of saying it. Like, they're all the way activated. And because of that, she was really saying what was understood by those before us, that the body is a full eye. It is the eye and it can really see. And when you do open up all of your cells, then you are opening up your cells too. That's what the all seeing eye really is in source. And that's why remote viewing or these extrasensory type of abilities are not extra at all. They are an extension, if anything, of the senses that we already have and of ourself. These are characteristics of ourself, and ourself is a derivative of the source. So it's just funny to even think like that. And I'm having these flashes of these images of like Alex Gray, and I'll make sure to put these up as I talk about them. Alex Gray and being in the network. And sorry that I'm sweating. I was supposed to be hopping in the shower, so if you do hear the water, also helping me to keep my mind running on, tapped in and streamed. But it's also got me obviously flooding and ready to go shower. But I'm having these visions of like the network of being, I believe, where Alex Gray literally in these almost like art frame. It's a big wall, but it's like an interconnected wall, and you can almost think of them like nerves or neurons, and then literally it's like frames as if they're like picture frames, and then within that though is like the galaxy, and it's an eye, and like the eyes are actually all around these, and so it's really fractal, and you're looking and you're like, oh my god, and that's the network of being. And that is the kind of experience, and as I was even having it, that transforms your consciousness. Even if you think of it as your neurons all looking at themselves and you experiencing yourselves, that thought right there will light your brain up and light your cells up and go, wow, we are experiencing ourselves. And having that kind of like aha kind of moment, but on I was gonna say intergalactic, but really on the highest type of level that you can, is what agape universal love is. And that is what it is to feel isness and connection to source. And that is this right now. That is the expression of, and that is the reason. So when you do get inspired or inspiru, and it comes up, you have to let it go. And this ties all the way back, because I was going through this rigidity of being like, okay, well, you got to write down the concept, then you got to da 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 da. Sometimes it is, my friend just said something very, very important to me. Life moves fast, and so rigidity will cause you to hold on to things, whether it's in the past or the future, or in that moment it's just so good, I don't want to let it go, and now you're still holding on, so now you can't go into the future, or you're only into the past. So rigidity is this constricting, restrictive vibration that does like this. I don't even like doing that no more. I'm all on like the and trying to really get it out, because it hit me yesterday. As you let it flow, I was listening to Donna, that's what it was, and really letting it flow through you is the only way to continually grow, evolve, and shed the skin that we were in to become that new thing. And trust me, I've been the king of rigidity, no matter whether it is having that discipline and being like, which I've now broken and now I have to go back into, of being like, okay, I only drink water, apple juice, orange juice, and then almond milk. Other than that, I ain't touching it. But then it's because as soon as you do let pop in, or as soon as you do let that, yeah, I'll try that mystic or something like that, then it's like that gateway and starts letting other things in. Versus when you already have your standards, you're like, no is no is no, then it's nothing, it's not even a conversation, period. And so talked about a lot already. I want to see, to bring it back to all of the cells, and seeing the reason that was so important to me. And I keep having, oh, it keeps inspiring me. And it keep that the reason why this entertains me and inspires me so much is because I had this thought yesterday. What are, and I already knew it, but it doesn't matter what we know, we can always know it more. And you actually have to ask the question to know it more. So, and the question came to me genuinely, what would it be like to experience other dimensions? I will tell you right now, even after I just said what I said, I've already done these things. But even as I asked the question, it brings it into a different type of light for me as someone that has already experienced it to think how would it be different to experience it. Um, and I wanted to ask that question to the AI ChatGPT and actually do this on Intelligent Intimacy. And but I've just been sitting with that. And yesterday, so if I asked that question 2 or 3 days ago, I'll say I asked it 2 days ago. Yesterday, just sitting there and I was reflecting, I was doing some things, and it really smacked me. And 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 it was like it was so potent how it did it. I think I was watching something about intergalactic communication, something like that. And as if it's like if you've ever been back inside yourself or had a moment of awakening or been back home and you're like, whoa, I know I've had this before. That's what happened, but in my mind, it like shifted it just almost like it was slightly, and it just opened up. And it was like, obviously, if consciousness generates reality, then experiencing a new dimension is only experiencing consciousness at a deeper awareness and at a deeper level, or quote unquote, in a different way. And as soon as I had that thought, it changed even where I was at and how it's changing how I'm thinking now, which is even why I have my eyes closed to sort of think about it. And it shifted everything in that moment. And I was like, obviously, like you want to ask an AI something like that, but and you're gonna get a limited response. But like if you ask it and just assume that it's going to give you back an answer as if like a human responded that actually went through this experience, and it's like it can't give you exactly what it's gonna be like because you have to have that experience. But if I'm sitting right here and I'm looking at that wall or the TV or my crystal or whatever it is or the camera how I am, and then I go on the same couch and I sit upside down and I look at it, that is semi or the best equivalent scenario you can give in this kind of situation of how it would be to experience a different dimension, because we are still present but now yet we see differently and perceive differently, meaning that reality must be different, whether or not because our perception or vice versa. It doesn't matter how that interaction is happening. If it's this way or that, which one happens first, it's all interconnected anyway. So, but, and that's when it just really hit me like, wow, okay, so we're obviously already working on different dimensions and working through and able to, attain or go interact on different levels depending on the quality and refinement of our awareness, of our consciousness. And so just thinking on that really had me diving into different vibrations, different states, and ultimately different dimensions. But it's funny because we always want to think like, no, what does it look like if my whole body's in a different dimension? Then shouldn't it just be all like waves? Or we get all these preconceived notions from ego, which is again, it's I almost want to say it is more than a construct, but it has been constructed from self. So more than anything, it is actually like a construct because it can be banished. um, Even if it does come back, or if it is part of, like, even if it is part of. But I say that in the sense of putting that aside is what allows us to then experience what is. These things already exist and are all when we are already in interaction with. Is more so, do we understand how we are in interaction with? Do we understand that, we are affecting, the astral plane is actually resonating right now. This video was able to come into conception because I had the idea, which manifested in the astral. With enough energy, I was able to pull it down from the astral, and literally it started materializing through the quickest possible channel. And now here we are. Like, that plane is already acting and is more real, if not, or is real, if not more real than the plane or the things that we think are taking on appearances that appear real. Things are already on vibration and acting in the way that I just mentioned, on a plane, coming to another plane to actually be solidified. Then nothing is as we perceive. And so I say all that to again try to bring that back around to what's at the heart of it, and what has had me so like, I'm like, I had another sort of, I guess I would say, awakening, and it happened from watching those kids. And after she said what she said, the teacher, she mentioned that the reason that they can see with all their cells because they know how to turn on their energy. And when we talk about turning on your energy, like, that may just seem like some, like, kind of like, oh, okay, like, I feel better. It's like, no, 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 no. It goes deep, and it goes into something that really John Valo Melchizedek went into and created a book, The Sacred Flower of Life, but just as important, living in the heart. And that's really what this is about. Why I even mentioned my whole blue, green becoming my favorite color, all the stuff that I mentioned before, because that is really what we're getting to, is living in the heart. And that is a real way of being. That is a way of learning how to bring our consciousness. Like, it isn't like, I don't want to say it isn't just being like, hey, how you doing? Like, I'm being kind, because it is. That is a core part of it. But that is because it essentially means bringing our consciousness from a place of being in the mind and bringing it down into the heart, and actually bringing its seat here to understand what it is that the heart is trying to communicate with us. And it used to make me so excited being being so young and believing in quote unquote paranormal or extrasensory abilities and things that people talked about, that people did in Egypt, and having belief in deities or higher guides and afterlife, all these different things that used to just really pique my fascination, and really felt like within my soul, like, of course this is real. Like, little to my knowledge, before I had any real conscious awakening and being within incarnations that were waking up, or having past life recollections and going, whoa, okay, I lived that, I lived that, I lived that, I lived that, I remember that, and coming out and being like, wow, now I know how to heal, now I know how to, before getting Reiki certified and all these other things. So I know I'm going a million miles an hour, but that is the passion, and that is what comes when you do really get to the heart and the core of it. And living in the heart teaches you how to come to full awareness. And yes, but the connection to all the eyes, when she said that about the kids, it's been on my mind, and I always use it now, and I say turn my light on. I use that common song, turn your light on, and I just tell myself that, and how easy it is, because one, it is, and it's really a Merkaba meditation, is learning how to take the Merkaba and taking the male portion and rotating it in its proper direction, and taking the female portion and rotating it in its proper direction and at the appropriate speed, angle, and pretty much giving it its coordinates. So once they do both start doing what they're supposed to, we activate our light vehicle, our light body vehicle. And this is what actually gives the ability for interdimensional travel. Um, Actually, this gives the ability to do much more than you may think. But when you activate this, it really is. I had to look this up the other day. Goal soul theory. It is what activates. And I remember writing on it a few times and being like, wow, there is gold in your soul. Because if you want to know how it feels when a volcano erupts, awaken yourself. Because when you do, it's going to feel like magical, almost violent. You're almost like worried, but when you do, again, that rigidity is what causes us to do this and tighten ourselves up and put a lock on it. But when we learn to open up, then it literally it flings open and you fulfill with gold, and you really go, wow, okay, I see what we're talking about now, and I see what it is I'm really dealing with, and we can really get started with life and development, self-development. And so it having all these things, these movies trigger eyes, and making me think about like seeing these images, the Alex Gray, like I said, the spiral going up. It's the human. It's one where I think it's just the tunnel, and it's just like 1,000 eyes around. And then, which also reminds me of, I believe it's the crown lotus, which is of 1,000 petals, which is universal love. You're looking upon yourselves, like I just said, all your selves looking upon yourself. That would be, if you're at the center of consciousness, you would be able to see all of you looking back into yourself and outwardly reflecting, almost like an Indra's net. But I'm not gonna get into that too much. Um, so where's it gone? Oh, and but I do think there is also an Alex Gray one where he has the human body like this, and you do see all of the nadis, the channels, and all the currents that run through the body, and the eye above the head that is the connection and the gateway to the universal eye, the eye of all, or the heart of life. And then you see outside, it's still that tunnel, and all the eyes are reflecting, just like in that the net of being, like I mentioned. And it's funny because when you see these things, if you've never had one of these kinds of experiences, you can feel it in here. You feel it in your solar plexus. You can feel things awakening, and it's almost like you're like shifting. It's like if you were buzzing, like for when people say, oh, if you get drunk, instead you get a little buzz, and you're like, oh, I feel like I'm getting, it's like that, but it's a spiritual buzz. Inside, you start doing this, and you're like, wait, something is, and that's because the inner you is knocking like, hey, yo, I know you hear me, or at the back of there, you're like, oh my God, like I hear somebody talking to me, but how could it, if I'm like, that just doesn't make, because consciousness is making a greater call to you and saying, pick up. And when you do, it will, again, I'm gonna put the picture up, it will look like Avatar Korra or Aang really walking that path, which is, and I always get back to this, and it's one of my favorite things to talk about, the Atakrana. Like it's the path that we must create, literally. So if you guys were me, I am my higher self you guys will be walking this path and you will see this inside because this is consciousness. Consciousness knows what it needs and how to get there. And when you walk there and you see like, oh, this is me, but it's like a bigger me. And then like how Aang is, turn your light on and everything activates that and all the things activate. And it's funny because this is the very similar, actually the direct illustration of, like I mentioned, when I was in my infinite library or Akasha or my personal space, and all the books now have writing. They lit up with the ink, and now I'm like, wait, I can now. They didn't have any writing. I now understand it. Or in my experience and in the experience that I read in Living in the Heart, which actually helped me see what was happening inside when you touch the pyramid and the hieroglyphs light up, and you're like, I understand them. Of course you do, because they're you, they're source, it's this. So walking, we must build the Atha Karana. We must build that bridge, that Jacob's ladder, that DNA. We must literally, like, all these things are intertwined because that is what it is. These are the stepping stones and the building blocks to quote unquote Christ consciousness or our higher elevated place of awareness. Essentially, all I'm saying is we have to learn to let up, let go. Don't be so hard on yourself. Learn to be compassionate, especially within the society that we are in. We all know that we live in a fast-paced society, and so we're all on go, 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 go. And we always have things to do for work, always have things to do for our family, we always have things to do for whatever it is that we want to do. There's going to be something else that we need to get done for it. So we do really need to learn how to calm down, learn how to respond properly. I'm looking at a book right now, The Relaxation Response, which really hits on um, activating the parasympathetic nervous system and not giving in to our normal fight or flight response. And that is something that is ultra, ultra, ultra essential. Also going to start building out something. I'm very excited for you guys to build that out for you guys. And I think it's just very important that we do learn how to breathe, sort of let go, not let all of that stress stay within us. Learn how to release all of that and get it out so that we can allow our heart to open up how it is it needs to. Get out all the stuff that it's been holding on to so that we can get some of these upgrades that Source has for us. So thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time on Waking Wellness, we out.